So, you have excellent guests, great content, and high quality production, but your podcast isn't getting any listens. Maybe it's time to focus on that thumbnail. Unless your listener already knows about your show or they've heard about it from somewhere and they're looking exactly for it, they're most likely to encounter your podcast either because they're searching for some sort of a keyword or they're just browsing through your genre looking for something new to try out. And so the first thing that they're going to see about your show is your thumbnail. So you'd better make sure it stands out. So here are 5 tips for how to design exciting, click-worthy thumbnails. And the last one is probably the hardest, but also the most impactful. So do stick around. The first tip, and this is kind of an obvious one, is to use high quality images for your artwork. In today's world, blurry or pixelated photos are just not going to cut it. So use quality licensed stock photographs. And if you're using Canva for your artwork, use any of the high quality images that they provide you. They're pretty good and they're already bundled into the price of their offering. Better yet, use photos of people in your thumbnails. Viewers like looking at people, and if it's a nice, friendly expression in a good quality, professional looking photograph, it will probably attract more attention than something that is an object. And if this person is your guest, please ensure that they send you multiple good quality photos so you can pick one that works for your artwork rather than trying to force fit the one photograph that they've given you into something where it is not going to look nice. The second tip is to use bright, complementary, and contrasting colors. If you use dull colors, they tend to fade into the background, and especially when compared against so many other thumbnails that are going to be surrounding it, which are all bright and cheerful and making their message stand out, while yours is like a dull color that recedes into the background. So you need to make sure that your thumbnails are able to stand out in a sea of other thumbnails, and so therefore need to be bright and kind of present themselves. To do this, you need to use 2 or 3 complementary colors, and if you don't know what they are, it doesn't matter. You can look for online resources which will just show you color palettes, and you can use any of those color palettes. Or again, if you're using Canva, Canva will just recommend to you palettes that you can use. Pick something that has colors that you like and just use them as your personal branding guide and just stick to those colors for all of your artwork. The third tip here is to make your text simple, bold, and eye catching. Don't write a lot of words on your thumbnail. People aren't going to be able to read all of that, especially given that your thumbnail is going to show the size of a postage stamp. So therefore, keep it to a few words, make it catchy. Also, don't use complicated fonts like handwriting and stuff like that. When a person is scrolling, they're going to just see your thumbnail for a fraction of a second. So if they can't read it in that time, they're just not going to bother. Keep it simple, clear, and bold. The fourth tip, this is a trick that you can actually adopt from YouTubers. You could try using arrows or frames or objects in your thumbnail to make some part of the image stand out. Now, on YouTube, of course, there's much more room on the thumbnail to do all of this. In podcasting, because it's a square, you may not have so much of room, but if there's the opportunity, definitely go for it. Try putting an arrow to point to something, put like a big bold question mark or an exclamation mark to create some curiosity or anything like that, which you think will make your thumbnail stand out a little bit visually versus other thumbnails which might look a little more formal. Finally, the fifth point, probably the most important point, is for you to think very, very carefully about the text that is on the thumbnail. A mistake that almost all podcasters make is to just take their episode title and just put that title on the thumbnail. But that's so boring. Is there a way for you to find some sort of message that can be written in 5 or 6 words, which is curiosity inducing and click worthy? Something that a person is going to see when they're scrolling and then stop and click through to see what your episode is about. This is much easier said than done. It takes a lot of time to craft a 5 word phrase which is relevant to your episode, which is going to make people really stop and think. In fact, in my personal opinion, a well written hook with a humdrum sort of design will beat a badly written hook with a very slick design any day. People are curious creatures, and if you can't pique their curiosity, you're not probably going to earn that click. And of course, once they click through, they go to the episode and they listen, it must of course be aligned. There's a fine line between click worthy and clickbaity. So you have to of course make sure that what you're saying over there lines up with what you're actually saying in your episode. But if you are able to do that, it will create magic. You'll get much better click throughs, and therefore potentially much better listenership for your podcast than you would otherwise. And that time will be very well spent. So, those were the 5 tips. As a quick recap, use high quality images, preferably of people. Second, use bright, complementary, bold colors. Third, use few words and bold, simple fonts, which makes your text stand out. Fourth, use arrows or other visual cues to try and highlight interesting things in your design. And finally, spend a lot of time crafting the perfect 3 to 5 word hook that you can put on your thumbnail, which will make people want to click through and listen to your episode. So that's it for today. If you liked what we had to say, we would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our show and tell others about it as well. And if you have questions for us, please leave them in the comments. I read all the comments myself, and we would love to get your insights so that we can make videos about it and share as much as we can to make your life easier. So, thank you once again for listening. See you next time.